you. Happy Monday. Happy 420. Let's celebrate. You do it your style, I'll do it mine. Welcome to Hardline, everyone. I'm Susanne Posel. Today is April 20th, 2015. On tonight's show, we will discuss some new dangers surrounding sugar. So stay tuned, and some more FBI shenanigans. Always love those. But first, the main story for tonight is legalizing marijuana. Georgia Governor Nathan Deal just signed a medical marijuana law into effect. So yes, folks, those peachy states representatives in Georgia have joined 23 other states in the United States, in the American Union, to recognize the medicinal benefits of the marijuana plant. A round of applause. Thank you. While surrounded by a dozen afflicted children who might be helped by cannabis oil, Deal signed the medicinal pot bill that legalizes the possession of a low-potency form of cannabis, and this is the oil, for medicinal uses. Patients suffering from cancer, Crohn's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, seizure disorders, sickle cell disease will now be allowed to possess up to 20 ounces of cannabis oil with a doctor's permission. The inspiration behind this bill is a 5-year-old girl named Haley Cox. Now, she suffers from a seizure disorder that used to cause hundreds of seizures a day that did not allow her to respond to life, and she was not responding to conventional drugs. Haley's parents were told last year that marijuana may be effective in treating her illness, but that was not a possibility because they lived in Georgia and it was not legal. When Haley's parents were informed that she may only have months to live, they packed up and moved to Colorado as a last-ditch effort to save their daughter's life. Since the move and subsequent regimen of cannabis oil treatments, Haley has far fewer seizures and has begun talking once again. And wouldn't you know it, Arizona's following in Georgia's footsteps. A round of applause. Thank you very much. A planned 2016 ballot initiative would ask Arizona voters to legalize marijuana for recreational use and establish a network of licensed cannabis shops where the sales of the drug would be taxed, in part to fund education. Under this initiative, adults 21 and over would be able to possess up to 1 ounce of marijuana and grow up to 6 plants in their homes without obtaining licenses, as long as the plants are in a secure area. And create a distribution system similar to Colorado's, where licensed businesses could produce and sell marijuana. And give the State Department marijuana licenses and control to regulate the cultivation, manufacturing, testing, transportation, and sale of marijuana. And give local governments the authority to regulate and ban marijuana stores. And also to establish a 15% tax on retail sales to be allocated to education, including a full day kindergarten and public health initiatives. Wow. Okay. Lots of money there to be had. I think Georgia and Arizona are starting to smell the green, and it might not just be the pot. This measure is supported by the Marijuana Policy Project, who commented, quote, "People are coming to realize that marijuana is not as harmful as they have been led to believe, and it makes little sense to punish adults who choose to use it responsibly. Right now, there are millions upon millions of dollars in marijuana sales that are taking place in Arizona and in the underground market. So, this is an opportunity to start controlling those sales and taxing them and raising revenue that would benefit communities in Arizona. Of course. Now, we have naysayers who will be out there in full force on this Arizona measure, talking about the harmful effects of marijuana on children and society, and probably playing Reefer Madness for free at the local movie theaters. But come on, people. This is a problem you want. Hell, Even if the local hospitals are getting into the swing of things with pot being most in-demand prescription, this is a problem that we all want. And this fight is not just going on in the trenches of state government. Oh, no. Our legislative and executive branches of the federal government are preparing to do battle over a whole legalization of marijuana. We can recall, if you go back to February of this year, that hidden in the federal spending measure was a provision that effectively ends the federal government's prohibition on medical marijuana and signals a major shift in the drug policy. All right. So how hard can it be to get this silly pot not being a dangerous drug anymore? How do we get that cleared up? Well, surprisingly, it's pretty fracking hard. Just recently, President Obama admitted he was a midnight toker, spoke to CNN and said that, among other things, support for medical marijuana and rolling back the federal government's war on drugs is important. Obama said, quote, "I'm on the record as saying that not only do I think carefully prescribed medicinal use of marijuana may in fact be appropriate, and we should follow the science as opposed to ideology on this issue, but I'm also on record as saying that the more we treat some of these issues related to drug abuse with a public health model and not just from an incarceration model, the better off we are all going to be." All right. So the president is on record saying pot for medicine is a science, duh, and outdated perceptions of the plant being tainted is Americans' inability to obtain the information and thereby seeing it for what it isn't and missing out on some medicine. In fact, if you remember last month, all of you 420 aficionados, Senator Rand Paul, Kristen Gillibrand, and Cory Booker all introduced a bill to extend the principle of federalism to state drug policy, providing access to medical marijuana and enable research into the medicinal properties of marijuana. And it would reclassify marijuana as from a Schedule II drug under the Controlled Substances Act to be recognized as a medicinal plant. This downgrading would place marijuana among opiate narcotic pain relievers and in the same group as morphine and oxycodone. The proposed law eliminates potential federal prosecution of citizens using marijuana for medicinal purposes while simultaneously allowing states to individually regulate marijuana through the state government legislation. And it opens doors for more research without bureaucratic tape involving the clinical trials of the use of marijuana as a medicine. But best of all, the reclassification of plant strains enriched for the non-psychoactive cannabidiol would be legal, and there would be an exemption from the definition of marijuana. This would remove CBD oils from any part of the Controlled Substances Act and allow for interstate commerce of the product, predominantly for management of pediatric and adolescent epilepsy. Not a bad deal, considering Kentucky is currently the only state sanctioned by the federal government to legally grow hemp for research purposes. But wait! Is this one of those congressional coincidences? You know, Rand Paul supporting the bill and bringing it up with his friends, and then he happens to be senator of the only state that has the government's authority to grow hemp for medicinal purposes. By the way, Americans are totally on board with the pot legislation. Let me tell you some facts. According to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health in 2013, marijuana use was up 7.3% in Americans over 21 since 2012. The Pew Research Center concurred with a survey showing 3 out of 4 Americans say the efforts to enforce marijuana laws cost more than they are worth. And 60% said that the federal government should not enforce federal laws prohibiting the use of marijuana in states where it is legal. And wait, there's more. The University of Washington Institute for Health, Metrics, and Evaluation has declared marijuana the most popular drug of choice across the globe. Way to go, 420. Even the Department of Justice has backed off. 2 years ago, James Cole, deputy attorney for the DOJ, said the agency will not seek prosecution of the states who have legalized marijuana. And that's not all, folks, because there are some amazing things that this plant can do. In 2012, psychiatrists published a study showing how THC, the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana, assists the human body in emotional processing and can be essential as an aspect to appropriate social interactions and interpersonal relationships. Wow! So wait a minute. People who are high on pot have better relationships and get along with strangers better. And jobs? You want to talk about a job creator? Yeah. The FDA and the DEA have been on the lookout for a year now to hire farmers who will be able to accommodate and maintain 400 to 700 kilograms of marijuana stock for the purposes of creating cannabis extract and drug usage in the form of marijuana cigarettes and its active and inactive constituents under controlled conditions. This could not only help children with epilepsy, but did you know that since 1999, the California Pacific Medical Center has studied the effects of cannabidiol as a breast cancer treatment with positive results. The evidence for the healthful benefits of CBD is absolutely mind-blowing. International neuroscientists confirm that CBD is able to produce significant anti-tumor activity by reducing tumor growth and the number of tumors, while also showing preventative management applications for staving off future incidents of breast cancer. Take that, Angelina Jolie. You shouldn't have done it. You could have saved your breasts by just taking CBD. Heck, we all know your husband is practicing that puff, puff, pass courtesy over at Shea Bradgelina. And finally, folks, did you know that the University of California claims that drinking beverages sweetened with sugar, I'm switching gears here, by the way, suppressed cortisol and the brain's stress responses according to a recent published study? So basically, here we go. Researchers looked at how sweetened drinks affected 19 women and found that sucrose consumption was associated with reduced stress-induced cortisol. These findings led to researchers to assume that the brain is taking cues from sugar consumption and altering the body's normal response to stress. UC says drinking beverages sweetened with sugar suppresses cortisol and the brain's stress responses. In this study, the researchers looked at the patient's brains and monitored them with the fMRI and took saliva samples in order to understand the circular effects of cortisol from the brain to the body and in what concentrations. And did I forget to mention that the whole time the participants belonged to a subgroup under an investigation funded by the National Institutes of Health? So hand-selected participants, I guess? I don't know. Sounds like making sure you get the right... oh, never mind. I'm not a scientist. The timing of this report is serendipitous because back in March, the World Health Organization demanded that there be dramatic reduction in the consumption of sugar worldwide. Researchers at World Health Organization told the press that the reason for this is that they wanted to focus on sugar as a content and hidden sugars and the major concern to public health in many countries this poses. The National Institutes of Health have protocol regarding sugar intake, but this also is a very interesting thing. See, there was a stack of papers found in the darkest corner of a basement down at the University of Illinois, which exposed the sugar industry's direct involvement in the National Institutes of Health protocol for sugar intake. These documents showed that in the 1950s, the sugar industry... This is incredible, folks. Representing 30 international members worked with government agencies to redirect the fact that sugar causes tooth decay and adopt a strategy based on identifying alternative approaches to sugar decay. Finally, Big Sugar decided to push the concept that the public health would be better off